I'm Stephen Hellman. I'm co-founder of Crafty Short Films, and I'm here with a special Behind the Lens episode. We have the series Off the Menu from filmmaker Daniele Sestito and actor George Lombardo to join us. So really excited to release this series on Crafty. Wonderful series. Huge fan of the concept and premise, which we'll get into. But yeah, if you like to tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of dig into the questions. But yeah.
Sure. I'll go first. My name is Daniele Sestito. I'm a writer-director based in New Jersey. I've been working in filmmaking for like over 10 years now. And yeah, mainly a writer-director. I also do a little bit of gaffing on set to pay the bills and have some fun. But yeah, Off the Menu was my thesis project at Emerson College. And it was originally a short film and grew out to be this very long project and sort of journey in order to bring it to life and bring it to the world.
And then George, but introduce yourself.
I'm an actor based in Central Connecticut. Not much else to say. I've been most of my career has been on the stage. Very strong stage actor. COVID kind of nudged me into film and TV. Yeah. Answered an ad with Daniele for Off the Menu, and it's been a great journey ever since.
Yeah. And I was gonna ask, what was what stood out to you about the role, sort of once you had the script and sort of that process, and like how did you two come together? Because it's such I love the character and sort of the yo-yo of emotions that you go through. So what was that kind of like process like, and how was it like, how did that all come together?
I'll let you go first, George.
Well, for me, it's funny how it just started out. Oh, here's an opening. Here's maybe I can get some work. Answered the ad. The audition side that he gave me was great. I was more concerned with the Italian accent and getting it happening, and that was basically it for me. But once I saw the script, I was just blown away. It was really well written, very compelling, and quite a character. As far as navigating all the emotions and the growing of my experience as things went along, that was all the script that Daniele wrote, and his direction was amazing. He really moved me along every scene of the way. I would interpret it, and he would always push me just a little farther. And I think the collaboration is really what made the film work. It really worked well, and we've been close ever since.
Yeah, it was honestly, I felt really lucky when George applied. He was one of the first that applied for the role. I posted on like Backstage, Actors Access, all that stuff. He was one of the first that applied. He had a couple of little like impersonations that he did as a part of his acting reels. And one of them was of this like Italian man, and it was just spot on. And then in terms of just, even like the physicality of the character, he had it. You kind of had that all there. So like, it was funny because it took a while for me to get back to him about the role. And I remember he actually reached out to me about it. Like, hey, am I still like in the running? It was honestly like, he was perfect from the get-go. And I just had to make sure that like, to go through some of the people and to really confirm like, all right, this guy really is perfect. Then let's make this happen. And yeah, I remember when I first saw him in person on like a snowy President's Day, he came in, he auditioned, and it all clicked. And not only did it click just like, on like an acting level, but just like me and him, we were just on the same page because George had sort of an Italian background, came from an Italian family, and of course came from an Italian family as well. That's where a lot of the inspiration came from. And so just all of that made it easy for us to bond. And I think I just always have a soft spot too, personally, for people who are like older than me and have more life experience than me. And I think just like getting to hang out with George and chat with him and him kind of giving the script and the opportunity of the film like full respect, like we were able to dive in, and make it happen. It was beautiful.
I remember one of our first meetings in Boston. We just walked to Little Italy in Boston, sat down at a pizzeria, and we just talked and talked, and it was really clicked. Both of our parents are immigrants, very similar experiences, and I think that helped with the film too. We just both had a really good sense of where the script was coming from, and it worked really well.
I had to ask, like, with the location, how did that, you know, transpire, and sort of like how were you able to secure that? Was it putting like prop? Was it, so just explain that and how that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's funny, for whatever reason I feel the need to mention this. Like, when I was writing the film, I didn't think to myself, like, is this live action? Like, how am I going to make this, blah, blah, blah. Actually, when I was writing, I kind of thought more like, this might be an animated film. And that's how I just kind of let my imagination go. And I wasn't constricted by like, how am I going to make this? But at a certain point, yeah. I mean, so that's why it's so cartoonish, especially in the beginning. Like, it's just, I didn't put constrictions on myself in that way. And again, it was just a great lesson of like, the less constrictions you put on yourself as a writer, like the more it's just going to come from a pure place, that something that just wants to be expressed. And so, yeah, once I wrote it and I was like, all right, I'm not an animator. I don't know people who could animate this or make this. And I have my thesis project coming up. Like, I'm going to make this as my thesis. And then I was just very lucky that Emerson College, where I went to school, like, they offered a production design grant for one thesis project a year. And so I was like, all right, I really got to like fight to get this grant, because really this is my only chance at making the film, because we can't go into a prison. And also, if we did go into a prison, it wouldn't be right tonally. Like, it wouldn't have that same like bluish tone all throughout that it has in the series. Like, it just wouldn't have worked. And also the specific like design of all of these, like, you know, maximum security prisons on the side and then an open bar cell there, you know, that doesn't exist. So I was very lucky that, you know, I met with the person who kind of decided or led the grant project. Then I talked to him about it. He was also an Italian man. And so maybe he understood a little bit of what I was trying to do. We got the grant, and that just like legitimized the project so much more and just made it all the more real. And yeah, in terms of designing it, I was also just really lucky with my production designer, Beatrice Black. Like, we had a production design like advisor, Charles McCary. He was like a set decorator on some of like Woody Allen's films, a bunch of like New York films back through like the 70s to the 90s. And so he was a very experienced at his job. And so me and Beatrice were both taking his production design class. So we just kind of delved into production design, had him advising us. We had a grant advisor who was just helping us get all like the materials together. So yeah, it was just about being really creative with it. But it was also like a lot of the work was done within like 4 months between like, you know, getting Beatrice on board and having that grant and then shooting. And so it was also like really tense in terms of like, all right, there's a lot of things we got to get done and get together. And we're also still college students. And I was also just a pain in the ass about like, we got to get this right. And, you know, because if it's not right, then it's wrong. And so.
Well, that's one thing about Daniele. Every minute of it was, we got to get this right or else. And that's really what made the film. He knew what he was doing, this young kid. And I was amazed at how he knew where he was doing, and he was so focused. But I want to clarify, what really happened was his script was so good that he got that award because of it. And the award was a soundstage. He had the fun. They gave him the funds to build a soundstage in Emerson College, and he built a prison there, and that's how he managed to get that prison set going.
So I think I have to ask, what would both of yours death row meal be if you had to pick?
It would take me a week to figure that out, because I love food so much, and there's nothing I don't eat. I couldn't tell you. There's no way I can come up with my favorite meal.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Just once you ask somebody that, it makes you think like but like, what's the importance of that last, like, you know, like you can love a certain food, but you're making a choice of like, what's the last one that I want to get made? And in the case of this series, like, oh, I'm going to get it made very well. It's like a different type of.
It's a whole different criteria.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Yeah, but you kind of see with like the characters, it's like, you know, them really like savoring it, and you can almost, you know, with the burger in episode 1, it's like, you know, you can kind of see really wonderful acting by, you know, the actor that like
David Pridemore. He's like a New England legend, and wonderful guy. Guy.
But just like taking him back to like, you know, kind of that, you know, cheeseburger, and just like pausing and just like thinking, you know, about it, and you know, it's just so much visual, you know, storytelling just in like his mannerisms alone, that it's just excellent.
Because that's sort of where the truth lies. Like, nothing has to be explained. It's just there and it's happening. You see Chef and how sort of sharp he is when he's looking at the inmate, and you see all the emotion that the inmate's going through the opening episode, and you just kind of let it sit there. And I don't know, I just think that's just so beautiful to let it to be as it is. And because I also just feel like it's not even about just filmmaking, it's just like life perspective, and just like, you know, I don't know, I guess a lot of times as a writer you could tend to lean towards all just dialogue and trying to be clever, but I don't know, when you just look at real life and you kind of are trying to see where the most truthful things lie, they kind of just lie when people are just there on their own or being quiet, and it's just there's nothing to kind of cover themselves up, you know.
You know, I think that's a great way to, you know, to end it on. Thank you both so much for your time. You can stream the full series on Crafty Short Films on our YouTube channel, and thank you so much for tuning in. Leave your comments and questions in the comments section below. We'll be happy to get in there and answer them.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for watching.
Yeah, thanks, guys.